After I gave birth, my husband refused to sign the birth certificate. "That thing is not mine," he shouted, pointing at my newborn son like he was garbage. "You think I'm stupid enough to raise another man's bastard?" His mother stood behind him, arms crossed, smirking. His father watched from the doorway, completely silent. But when the doctor pulled my husband aside and whispered something in his ear, his face went white. His father's hands started trembling. And I knew right then that the nightmare I was living was only the beginning. They say some wounds never heal. They just learn to hide beneath the skin, waiting for the right moment to bleed again. I was 27 years old when my world collapsed in that hospital room in Philadelphia. 27, with a newborn in my arms and a husband who looked at me like I was a stranger he despised. My name doesn't matter anymore. What matters is what happened to me, and what I did about it. I grew up in a small apartment in North Philadelphia, raised by my grandmother after my parents passed in a car accident when I was 6. We didn't have much, but we had love. My grandmother worked 2 jobs to put me through college, and I became a kindergarten teacher because I wanted to give children the warmth I received from her. I met my husband at a charity gala. I was volunteering, serving drinks to wealthy donors. He was the son of one of the biggest luxury car dealership owners on the East Coast. The Harrison family, old money, political connections, country club memberships, everything I was not. He approached me that night with a smile that made my heart skip. He said I was the most beautiful woman in the room. I laughed and told him he needed glasses, but he kept coming back. Week after week, he showed up at the community center where I worked, bringing flowers, bringing lunch, bringing promises. My grandmother warned me, "Baby girl, men like that don't marry women like us. They collect us." But I was young and foolish and believed in fairy tales. We got married after a year of dating. The wedding was small because his family insisted on keeping it quiet. His mother told me it was for privacy. I later learned it was because they were ashamed. From the first day I moved into that mansion, I felt like an outsider. My mother-in-law never called me by my name. She called me her or the girl. My father-in-law was polite but distant. He had a way of looking at me that made me uncomfortable, but I told myself I was imagining things. My husband changed after the wedding. The charming man who courted me became cold, distant, always working late, always traveling. I spent most nights alone in that massive house with staff who pitied me and in-laws who tolerated me. When I got pregnant, I thought things would change. I thought a baby would bring us together. My husband seemed happy at first. He talked about names, about schools, about teaching our son to play golf. For 3 months, I believed we had a chance. Then, everything shifted. It started at Thanksgiving dinner. The whole family was there. Cousins, aunts, uncles, business partners. I was 5 months pregnant and exhausted. My father-in-law handed me a glass of wine. "One glass won't hurt," he said with that smooth smile of his. "It's a special vintage." I shouldn't have taken it. But I wanted to fit in. I wanted them to accept me. I took a few sips. The next thing I remember is waking up in my bed the next morning with a pounding headache and a strange soreness in my body. My husband was already gone on a business trip. The house was empty except for the staff. I told myself I had too much to drink. I told myself I was being paranoid. But something inside me knew. Something deep in my gut screamed that something was wrong. The pregnancy continued. My husband grew more distant. My mother-in-law started making comments about the baby's due date, about how I was showing too early, about how pregnancy tests can be wrong. I didn't understand what she was implying until later. My water broke 3 weeks early. I called my husband, but he didn't answer. I took a cab to the hospital alone. I labored for 16 hours alone. When my son finally arrived, screaming and perfect, I cried tears of joy. Then my husband walked in. He didn't congratulate me. He didn't hold our son. He stood at the foot of the bed with his mother and father behind him and looked at my baby like he was examining a defective product. "The baby came early," my mother-in-law said. "Too early." "I've been counting the weeks," my husband added. "The math doesn't add up." I stared at them in confusion. "What are you talking about? He's premature. Babies come early sometimes." My husband's face twisted with disgust. "Don't play dumb. I know what you did. I know you were sleeping around." "What?" "I never." "That thing is not mine," he shouted. That's when he said those words that still echo in my nightmares. You think I'm stupid enough to raise another man's bastard? I clutched my son to my chest, shaking. He's yours. I swear to God, I was never with anyone else, ever. My mother-in-law stepped forward with that cold smile. We're requesting a DNA test, and when it proves what we already know, you'll be out of this family before the week is over. My father-in-law said nothing. He just stood there, watching. But I noticed something strange. His hands were shaking slightly, his jaw was tight. He wasn't looking at me, he was looking at the baby. The doctor came in to check on me and immediately sensed the tension. He was an older man with kind eyes and gray hair. He asked the family to step outside, but my husband refused. I want answers, my husband demanded. I want to know who the father of this baby is. The doctor looked at me, then at the baby, then at my husband. Something in his expression changed. Mr. Harrison, may I speak with you privately? It's important. Whatever you have to say, you can say it here. The doctor hesitated. Then he spoke slowly, carefully. The baby has a genetic marker that indicates a familial connection to your family, but not to you specifically. The father appears to be a close relative. Silence. My husband blinked. What do you mean, a close relative? I mean the biological father shares significant DNA with you. A father, a brother, an uncle, someone in your direct bloodline. I watched my husband's face go from confusion to horror. I watched my mother-in-law's smirk disappear. I watched my father-in-law's hands tremble so violently he had to grip the doorframe. And in that moment, I understood. The Thanksgiving dinner, the wine, the memory I couldn't find. My father-in-law had done something unforgivable. The days that followed were a blur of tears and terror. My husband stormed out of the hospital. My mother-in-law followed, but not before leaning close to my ear and whispering, "If you say a word about this, we will destroy you." My father-in-law didn't say anything at all. He just left, like a coward. I was discharged with my son 2 days later with nowhere to go. My grandmother had passed the year before. I had no family, no friends in my husband's world, and no money of my own. All our accounts were joint, and by the time I got to an ATM, everything was frozen. I ended up at a women's shelter in West Philadelphia with my newborn son and a plastic bag containing 2 outfits and a formula can the hospital nurse had secretly given me. I sat on a cot that night staring at my baby's face, trying to understand how my life had shattered so completely. But I refused to break. I refused to let them win. A social worker at the shelter connected me with a lawyer who took cases pro bono. Her name was Denise, a fierce black woman in her 50s who had spent her career fighting for women like me. When I told her my story, she didn't flinch. "We're going to need proof," she said. "The DNA test results, any medical records, anything that documents what happened to you." "I don't remember what happened," I admitted. "I just know I woke up feeling wrong." Denise nodded. "That's common with drug-facilitated assault. The memories are there, but they're fragmented. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. But we don't need your memory. We need evidence." The first step was getting an official DNA test. Denise pulled strings to expedite the process. When the results came back, they confirmed what the doctor had suspected. My son's father was not my husband. It was someone genetically close to him. Someone like his father. Armed with that information, Denise and I began investigating. We filed requests for medical records. We tracked down former employees of the Harrison household, and we found something that made my blood run cold. A young woman named Teresa had worked as a housekeeper for the Harrisons 5 years before I married into the family. She had left suddenly, without explanation. No one knew where she went. It took us 2 months to find her. She was living in a small town in upstate New York, working at a grocery store, keeping to herself. When Denise and I showed up at her door, she looked like she had seen a ghost. "I can't talk about that family," she said, trying to close the door. "Please," I begged. "He did something to me too. I have a son. I need to know the truth." She stared at me for a long moment. Then she started to cry. Teresa's story was almost identical to mine. A holiday gathering, a special drink, waking up confused and violated. When she tried to tell someone, the family paid her off and threatened to ruin her life if she ever spoke about it. "There were others," she whispered. "I heard rumors about at least 2 more women, but they were too scared to talk. With Teresa's testimony and the DNA evidence, Denise felt confident enough to file a formal complaint with the district attorney. But we both knew it wouldn't be easy. The Harrison family had connections everywhere. Judges, politicians, police chiefs. They had spent generations building a fortress of influence. The first assistant DA we met with told us there wasn't enough evidence to prosecute. The second one said the case was too old. The third one didn't even return our calls. I started to lose hope. I was living in a tiny apartment now, working double shifts as a waitress while my son stayed with a neighbor who babysat for almost nothing. Every night I came home exhausted, and every night I looked at my beautiful boy and wondered if I could really take on a monster that powerful. Then something unexpected happened. My husband called me. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. "I need to see you," he said. His voice was different, broken. We met at a diner far from his family's usual haunts. He looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. When he sat across from me, I could see the pain in his eyes. I confronted him, he said quietly. "My father. I asked him directly what he did to you." I held my breath. "And?" "He didn't deny it," he said. My husband's voice cracked. "He said you were just a gold digger, that it didn't matter what happened to you. He said he was teaching me a lesson about trusting outsiders." I felt sick. The casualness of it, the complete lack of remorse. "I thought I knew my father," my husband continued. "I thought he was hard but fair. I didn't know he was a monster." "What are you going to do?" I asked. He looked at me with tears streaming down his face. "I'm going to help you bring him down." Over the next month, my husband became our most valuable ally. He gathered documents from the family business, showing payments to women over the years, settlements disguised as severance packages, non-disclosure agreements that mentioned nothing specific but promised enormous sums for silence. He also found something else, a recording. His father had a habit of recording business calls for legal protection. What he didn't realize was that the system also recorded calls on the family's personal line. My husband dug through years of archives and found a conversation between his parents from the night after Thanksgiving. In the recording, my mother-in-law asked, "Did you do it again?" And my father-in-law responded, "She won't remember anything. They never do." When Denise heard that recording, she smiled for the first time since we met. "We've got him." The day we filed the official charges, news crews surrounded the courthouse. My story had leaked somehow. Maybe a clerk, maybe a reporter with good instincts. Either way, my face was suddenly everywhere. The Harrison family tried to fight back. They released statements calling me a liar, a gold digger, a mentally unstable woman trying to extort money. My mother-in-law gave an interview claiming I had seduced her husband, that I was the predator, not the victim. But then Teresa came forward publicly. And then another woman. And another. 5 victims in total, spanning 2 decades. 5 women with the same story. The same pattern. The same monster. Public opinion shifted. The hashtag started trending. Women across the country shared their own stories in solidarity. Politicians who had once attended the Harrison family's fundraisers suddenly couldn't recall ever meeting them. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified for 2 days. I told them everything. The wine, the memory loss, the hospital, the rejection, the terror of being a new mother alone, with no one to believe her. When I was done, I looked at my father-in-law sitting at the defendant's table. He looked smaller than I remembered, older, defeated. The power that once radiated from him was gone. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Aggravated sexual assault, drugging for purposes of assault, conspiracy, obstruction of justice. The judge sentenced him to 40 years in prison. He would die behind bars. My mother-in-law filed for divorce the same day. Not because she believed us, because she wanted to protect her assets. My husband and I never reconciled as a couple. Too much damage had been done, but he remained a constant presence in our son's life. He paid child support, attended school events, and never once treated our boy as anything less than his own. DNA didn't matter to him anymore. Love did. I used the settlement money from the civil lawsuit to start a foundation for survivors of assault. We provide legal aid, counseling, and emergency housing for women who have nowhere else to turn. In the past 10 years, we've helped over 3,000 women rebuild their lives. My son is grown now. He knows his story. He knows where he came from, and he knows that his origin doesn't define him. What defines him is the man he chose to become. He's a family therapist today, helping others heal from trauma. I couldn't be prouder. Sometimes people ask me if I regret marrying into that family, if I wish I had listened to my grandmother's warning. I think about it for a moment. Then I look at my son. I look at the foundation. I look at all the women who found their voices, because I found mine. And I tell them no. I don't regret it. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the reason you find your purpose. I was 27 when my world fell apart in that hospital room. I'm 63 now. And I'm still standing, still fighting, still